Okay, so here's where we are. We've began this talk of the Rebbe with a question. Why is it that at the giving of the Torah specifically, there was this unique unity that wasn't there before? And to explain this, we started examining the whole method of how halacha works. What we've discovered so far is that, unlike in other wisdoms, the Torah is distinguished in that the Torah addresses things in a practical way. Other wisdoms merely try to understand things and examine the prognosis of the consequences of what might happen if you do A, B, and C. The Torah goes a step further, and the Torah says what you should do. The Torah addresses our actions, not just examines things and analyzes things, but the Torah gives conclusions in a practical way. And the reason the Torah does this is because the Torah is truth. And since Torah is truth, truth extends from the world of the intellect to the world of practical, and there is no place where there is no truth. Truth is everywhere, in every place, and every time. And since the Torah is true, therefore it's not satisfied with this telling us things how they are intellectually and emotionally. The Torah tells us what we have to actually do. That's also the reason for the phenomena that in order to properly understand the Torah, you have to be devoted to Hashem, because in order to get to God's truth doesn't let you understand it unless you're devoted to Him. It's built into the Torah. Torah is truth. Therefore, to receive Hashem's truth, you can't come with a predisposition to chesed or gvura, to kindness or the opposite. You have to be totally devoted to Hashem to hear what Hashem is saying in order to understand the Torah. It also explains why the beginning of the oral Torah starts with the word Shema Yisrael. What time do you say Shema? And the conclusion of the oral Torah is halacha. In order to be able to arrive at that true halacha conclusion, it's only because of how deep your Shema is, how profound your Shema is, how profound your devotion to Hashem is. And that's why another phenomenon we explained that halacha follows the rulings of Beis Hillel, even though Beis Hillel was not as smart as Beis Shammai. Imagine, we voted to our halachas, and there's so many arguments between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, and they should be not so smart. We're not choosing the smart answer. Why not choosing the smart answer? Because the Torah is not about smarts. The Torah is about truth. To get the truth, more important than your smarts is your bittul, is your kabbalah sales, your acceptance of the yoke of heaven. And this also explains the peace in halacha. The peace in the world of halacha is that when there's halachic ruling, it's not like there is in other models of decision making, like in Congress or in the Senate or in the Supreme Court, where although majority rules, but there still remains a dissenting minority. In Torah, halacha doesn't work that way. Torah is truth, and since Torah is truth, so the halacha is a ruling from the entire court, and even the dissenting opinion, because of the devotion to Hashem, goes back into the halacha and tries to understand the other opinion, and therefore is a part of the court that is issuing this halacha decision. It's not there's two parts of the court and we follow the majority. Rather, the entire court submits to this halacha, not just physically, but like in the story of Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua, it's something which is Rabbi Gamliel asked Rabbi Yeshua to come to him with his walking stick and with his money pouch, emphasizing how this shouldn't just be something that you're submitting to my authority blindly. Rather, this should be the way that you understand halacha also. This should be the way you see it. So this is going to help us go further now in this discussion and help us understand the differences between the 3 months of the year, Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan. Oised Aleph on page 130. This is also the explanation of the distinction between the 3 months of Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan. Nisan Chodesh Rishon Echad, or Chodesh Yetzias Mitzrayim, asher srach shebe'efen shenigla le'em malach baruch hu geolam. The Gamri Lamayla. The Kiva Shagula Legia Kolkach Metzad Yisrael and Metzad Baruch Hu, Lochain Lo Yuch Bayim Melchatchila Shum have died Agus Yisrael, Hayitzim Mitzrayim Akifas Kol Yisrael Kechad. Nisan is the first month of the year. We count our calendar from Rosh Hashanah, but there is another way their calendar works, and it's associated also with the month we left Mitzrayim. What is that month about? What happened in that month? What is the energy of the month in this? Hashem, the King of all kings, says the Haggadah, revealed himself and redeemed us. It was completely from heaven. And since the Geula didn't come from within us, it came only from within, from God. Therefore, from the perspective of the Nisan model, there is no difference between one Jew and another. God took us all out of Egypt together. There's no distinction between one Jew and another. That's the Nisan model. This oneness, remember the Torah is connected to the number 3, as we'll see in a second. But the unity that was expressed when we left Mitzrayim was expressed both in the way that we left Egypt and regarding the station, the spiritual level we were at when we left Mitzrayim. Number 1, our gathering to depart from Egypt, to go to Ramses, and our very first journey was in a way of, as the Torah says, I lifted you up on eagle's wings. Next page. And therefore the journey itself was in an instant. We left Egypt in the blink of an eye. It was something that was from Hashem, not looking at the differences between us. God's doing something, and therefore the time, there's no time. It was in the blink of an eye. Number 2, the title that God gave us when we left Egypt is, as we're discussing in the Maimer Basa Lagani, is the army of Hashem. That's the title God gave us when we left Egypt. One of the most fundamental rules in an army is, the basis that an army is built on is accepting the yoke of the army. There's no difference between one soldier and another in that sense. There may be differences between how they understand things and how they feel. Each of them thinks and feels different than the other. But all of them are submitted to the army, all submitted to the authority of the army. And since our departure from Egypt came from heaven, and it affected all of us and encompassed all of us equally, and therefore there was no distinction, although there are 12 tribes, and although there are Kohanim, and there's Leviim, and Yisraelim, there was no distinction in how we left Egypt. We all left Egypt together. What united us all? United us all was that we are servants, we are soldiers, the army of Hashem. It wasn't Hashem said, let the Kohanim go first, Leviim go second, let the Reuven, Shimon, all of them, everyone go out of Egypt. We're all servants of it, we're all soldiers of Hashem. The unity was only in regards to their action. There was no unity in their core values and ideas and ideologies. There is still division between them. So we did say earlier that they all traveled together, travel in the plural, because there were parts of them, the intellect and the feelings of everyone was still distinct from each other. And therefore, it says they traveled out of Egypt. But regarding action, regarding looking at it from a peripheral perspective, looking at it on the outside, all the Jewish people leave Egypt together in an instant because this is something that God is doing, and we're not distinguishing between one Jew and another. But this is the army of God leaving Egypt. Now, if you go into the various Jews, everyone has different opinions of what's going on, but everyone's still going together. Next column. That's the month of Nisan. The month of Nisan is the month of oneness, of unity that comes from God. That God causes this unity in us, and we all leave Egypt together. We leave our differences behind. We leave our different perspectives and different feelings, different ideologies behind. They exist, But we're not focusing on that now. We're focusing on we're leaving Egypt together. That's the month of Nisan. Month of Iyar. Chodesh Iyar, Chodesh Hasheni, Hu Chodesh Shal Sfira, Sfira Sa'emer, Hamatzbiya Al Das Shal Yisrael B'Keach Atzma. The month of Iyar, the month of counting the Omer, emphasizes our efforts on our own. Not God doing everything, but our effort towards God. If we're talking about what we do and how we do it, so then there's certainly a difference between one Jew and another. Everyone serves God on their level. Everyone prepares for the giving of the Torah according to their level. We have one guy who has idols in his suitcase, leaving Egypt with his idols in his suitcase, and he has to throw out his idols to prepare for the giving of the Torah. Another guy who has discord in his home. Everyone's preparing to get the Torah in a different way. That's a month of Iyar. Everyone is making step by step a preparation for this big event of the giving of the Torah. Everyone's ascending on their own level. Here, there's clearly a difference between one Jew and another. Everyone is ascending on their own with their own power in a different way. That's the energy in the month of Iyar, where there is a distinction to one Jew and another. And then comes the third month, the month the Torah was given, the month of Sivan, the month of the giving of the Torah. The month of the giving of the Torah unites the Jewish people in a way of one heart. Despite the fact that everyone has differences of opinion, everyone has their own way of looking at things. The Torah is peace, and the Torah brings peace between all of the different opinions, everyone has their own perspective, and the Torah makes them all have one heart and this real peace. In other words, what the Torah does is it doesn't ignore our differences. The Torah brings us together with something that we all. The Torah allows us to see the good in each other. There is a beautiful teaching of Yitzchak Vorke. I don't know if I share this teaching with you or not. It says, Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Har, the Jewish people camped together. So the word Vayichan, which means to camp, also means grace and favor. Said there, Yitzchak Vorke, how is it possible for all the Jewish people to be in a state of oneness together? Because they all saw good in each other. They all saw favor. They all saw goodness, something special in each other. The giving of the Torah didn't eradicate the different perspectives and different feelings that exist in the month of Iyar. There's still differences, there's still different opinions, still different feelings, but the Torah brought out the one heart in our acceptance of the Torah, how we're all devoted to the Eibishter and equally, and we're here to get the Torah. One of the lessons we can learn from all that we said till now is as follows. Amar Azokin Mevair b'Sefer HaTanya. She'avis Yisrael tzrich liyis l'chol nefesh m'Yisrael v'gol v'kotim. Ki mitzad sheresh nafshem Hashem echad ha'ikul masim tzvech kulan. The Alter Rebbe says that our love for each other has to extend to every single Jew, from the greatest to the smallest, because everyone's soul is rooted in Hashem, and therefore we're all equal, and we have one Father. That's the Alter Rebbe says. Someone may ask, if I had to relate to the source of your soul, fantastic. In heaven, you look marvelous. That's in heaven. But if I'm talking to you the way you are here in this world, and I don't see the source of your soul, so what kind of unity and love are we talking about? If I had to connect with you in heaven, in Gan Eden, the way you look in Gan Eden's fantastic, and the source of your soul in Eden is great. But I'm not talking to you in Gan Eden. I'm talking to you here, and I have to deal with you here the way you are obnoxious, the way you are low, because I'm obnoxious, I see you as obnoxious. So how are we supposed to create love over here? If I felt the source of your soul here, then we would be like brothers, mamish like brothers, literally brothers. I see how wonderful you are. I see the grace in you. Next page, but when we're talking about another Jew, that not only is the source of his soul not revealed, Not only is it the root of the soul, which is the highest level of the soul, not revealed, but there ain't nothing there. Even a little bit of the light of the soul isn't shining. The corporality of his body is totally obscuring and hiding the light of the soul. There is just an opaque veneer that doesn't let me see anything good in the guy. How is it possible, says the Jew, how is it possible you're asking of me to love this person the way he is now? You want me to love the source of his soul? Bring me the source of his soul. You want me to love the light of his soul? Bring me the light of his soul. But I don't see any soul. I don't see anything that's there at all. How are you asking of the Jew to love the guy the way he is now? And this is the message we have from the Torah saying, they camped there next to the mountain. Every other time they traveled, there was an argument. But there they were equal. What's unique about the giving of the Torah is the Torah gives us the power to bring the unity between us in a place of division, a place of argument, which is even greater than the unity that we have when we're not looking at our differences. When we left Egypt, it's great. There are no differences. We're just talking about God is taking us out of Egypt. Okay, that's special. The giving the Torah was given to us in a place of division, in a place of argument, in a place where there is discord, and the Torah creates unity there in the place of unity, in the place of discord. That's what the number 3 is about. The number 3 is not about creating unity in heaven. That's what number 1 is. Number 1 is in heaven we're all one. That's number 1. When we left Egypt, we're going to serve God in the Mount Sinai. We're about to leave Egypt. Ignore our differences. Let's go to Mount Sinai. Number 3 is, let's go to the place where there are differences. Let's go to the place where there is a distinction between me and you. And yet, despite the fact that you see differently than I, and I don't see anything good in you, I don't see your soul at all. All I see in you is something. I see just a dark veneer of the physical, and I don't see any redeeming value in you. So the Torah, the power of the unity of number 3 is, and in that place of division, there should be unity there as well. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that it's forbidden to speak Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is tantamount to idolatry, adultery, and murder. But the Alter Rebbe says that's speaking Lashon Hara. Thinking bad about someone else is even worse. Mendel Futterfast once asked, why is it worse to think? I mean, if you're thinking bad about the other person, you're doing part of the Lashon Hara, but when you speak, you're also thinking. You're thinking and you're speaking. So why is it worse just to think? So what he answered was that if you said it, you just said it. But if it's on your mind, you're thinking about it, it grows. It grows. You're thinking about another person's negativity, so then it leads to a lot of different. You do a lot of different things because of your perspective, the way you look at the other person, the way you think. You look at the other person with the glasses of their faults, so then you react to them in that way. And instead of the next day feeling, oh, why did I say Lashon Hara about this person? Next day you say, this guy deserves it. How dare the guy do this? Your perspective and how you think about the other person, you look at them, they have value, they don't have value, that's infinite. It will create further discord and cause lots of other problems. That's what the Mendel said. The simple meaning of Tanya is that our thoughts about other people are more significant because they are deeper. Thought is a deeper energy in the soul than speech. Speech is more external. So if it's forbidden to watch a porno, God forbid, and it's forbidden to go to a church, and it's forbidden to kill somebody, that's only things which are physically you're not allowed to do. But thinking bad about another person, the Alter Rebbe says that's within you. You're bringing the tumor, you're bringing the evil inside yourself, and you're not just doing any of those 3 things. You're doing all those 3 things together on a very deep level. The Mendel was once at a Fabringen, and someone said a 4-letter word. So Mendel Futterfast, and someone else, I don't know if he wants me to mention his name, but he was by the Fabringen, and he's like, he's very, very, very religious person. He says, I'm not listening to these kinds of words. And Mendel says to him, you're just thinking about them. Thinking is worse than speaking. So the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that if a thought comes into your mind, Mendel Futterfass, again, one last quote from Mendel. It was in Lincoln. What's the name of that auditorium in Manhattan? Lincoln Square Garden or something it's called? In the Madison Square Garden. What's that thing? Lincoln Center? Whatever it was.
Lincoln Center is in Washington. This would be somewhere else.
New York. Lincoln something, no?
Yes, yeah.
Madison Square Gardens is like
no.
Lincoln something. And it's a big auditorium. They had thousands of people there, and it was to celebrate the conclusion of the Rambam. Mendel Futterfass comes, and as soon as he comes, he was an older man already, and they bring him right away. He's there. Let's catch him while he's here. He should say a few words. He comes up. He gives a 30-second speech. His 30-second speech is quoting the end of letter 22 in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe says, a person should never think of the shortcomings of another. And if it comes into your head, the shortcomings of another person, you should push it away like smoke, the Alter Rebbe says. You should feel that, because this is tantamount to all the three sins combined, and it's worse than them because it's in your thought. A thought of another Jew's shortcoming should push it out of your head like smoke. That's what Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. And this, in the midst of loving your fellow like yourself, what's the mitzvah? The mitzvah is to think about the good that's there. That's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to look for. Hashem built a person in a way, most people, the Razah, the Rebbe Shab's brother was an exception. He could think about two things at the same time. Most people can't think about two things at the same time. The Friedrich put it this way. The Friedrich said that there are three letters in the Sefer Torah. There are small letters, there are middle-sized letters, and there are large letters. Friedrich said, your own faults you should see in the large letters. Your virtues, you should know about them, but they should be in small letters. Another person's virtues should be to you in big letters, and their shortcomings should be to you in tiny little letters. You should notice them. So the unique thing about the giving the Torah is not the number one, that we don't have differences. The unique thing about the giving the Torah is there are differences, and I'm not talking to you the way the source of your soul is in heaven, and yet here the way you are on earth, and here the way light of your neshama is hidden. The Eibusha says, here's where I want the unity to be. That's something special. Unity has to be in the place of fragmentation, in the place of division. That's what the whole point of the Torah was given, to create a unity in the place of division. Bottom of the column. Adrabah. And therefore, it's the exact opposite. The effort we need to make for Avos Yisrael has to be, first of all, the first effort of Avos Yisrael is to be to those Jews who are in a low state. The Jews who are in someone that made a very embarrassed someone, but at least it was not a good thing to do. This is what a guy did. He walked into our study hall in yeshiva. And he says, Avos Yisrael, what a great mitzvah, but it's so easy. It's Yankel. With you, it's hard. Everybody else, but you, Yankel, it's hard. It's a terrible thing to do. But the Rebbe is saying that this exact point. He's saying Avos Yisrael doesn't mean like the Jews who you get along with because they're nice and kind and wonderful. Avos Yisrael begins with the Jews who are in a low state, from your perspective. Who are in a state of division and separation. And there specifically, in the place of the division, there to make the unity. In note 80, Rebbe connects this to the Ma'ir of Anil Adaydi. Very interesting thing. In Anil Adaydi, the Alter Rebbe says you should search there for God. Says the Alter Rebbe, what does it mean you should search there for God? And he explains the word there means clip, there means the unholy. In a place of there, which means a place which is distant from Hashem, that's where you lost Hashem. You lost Hashem in your mistakes and your thoughts and words and actions that weren't for the sake of Hashem. That's where you'll find Hashem. You'll find Hashem by correcting those things. So in a similar way that when it says the Jewish people camped there, Hashem wanted us to camp and bring unity in a place of division. So the Rebbe says, what's the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael? First of all, the focus has to be in the place of division and discord. And there, in that place of division and discord, that's where you have to focus and bring unity there. That's where your first effort has to be. And through making an effort for Jewish love and Jewish unity. Jewish unity means more than love. Love means I love you. Unity means, as of Ari 11 not related, but a great last name. Rabbi Ari Levin said once he took his wife to the doctor, he told the doctor, my wife's leg, she was in pain, is hurting us. One second, let me just finish paragraph. My wife's leg is hurting us. So that's the meaning of Jewish unity. It's not that I'm concerned about you, but that your issue, what's bothering you, is mine. That's what unity means. So by making an effort of Jewish love and unity, and especially creating this unity around the Mount Sinai, around the Torah. How do you create unity around the Torah? By making an effort that every Jew should get a letter in the Sefer Torah. In addition to the Sefer Torah that was made for Jewish children, the Rebbe said that every Jew should get a letter in any Sefer Torah, a general Sefer Torah for all people, and we should all be united in the Sefer Torah. This will be a appropriate vessel to receive the Torah of Mashiach with the true Bikulah of Mashiach Tzekenu speedily in our days mamish, by uniting the Jewish people, especially in that area, in those places, in discord. That's how we will merit to receive the light of the Torah of Mashiach, especially by encouraging people to get a letter in the Sefer Torah, unity through Torah. Yes, Michal Mardechai, go ahead.
So just trying to be a little practical, since we're human beings and Guf Gashmi.
Think good about people. That's a simple thing.
Well, so yes, but I think it seems that you have this first opportunity where someone is going to affect you negatively, and then you have to push it away. Meaning, if it's not there, then you know there's no opportunity to act benevolently, and then it's like Avas Yisrael just by default. But you're saying Avas Yisrael is an act. It's not just it's not a state of being. It's an effort to with those that affect you. The problem with most people, not just Yidden, is that they lack self-awareness. They're just not aware of what they're doing and how it impacts others. And it's like simple things, like just things that are irritating, not quite like a chalkboard, scratch, but just like dry skin. I was in shul yesterday, and I have my sitter, it has a giant tech rabbi sticker on the front of it. The guy comes over, he's like, is this your sitter? And I'm like, oh, Nebuch, like you're really like, and I was like, no, wait, like I can't think negatively just over this, but like, are you that dumb? Really, are you that dumb? Is what I'm thinking. It's not a big deal. He didn't like double cross me but these things happen all the time. And where are the sichas about self-awareness? I mean, it's like always throwing on us that like, oh, we can't feel bothered by people that are just straight dumb.
Just interesting. You mentioned the example. So it happens to be just yesterday. Somebody, I have a lectern, right, and I have a seat in the front, so it's pretty obvious that's my seat too, right? But someone walks over and he announces, "Hey, is this your like whatever?" But that didn't bother me. It didn't bother me.
Oh, it bothers me. It bothers me when people sit at your stender, because are you that dumb? Who do you think is sitting there? What do you like literally, what is in your brain that you're like, oh, that looks comfortable?
All right. So
excuse me, Rabbi Levin, do you have any idea how many times Michael and I and others, if somebody had the chutzpah to even put a piece of paper on your stender and lean on it, we told them to get out of Dodge? We're always busy defending your honor, so you don't have to.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your valiant efforts to defend in the honor of my position. Thank you. But what was mentioning was not the necessary need to defend the honor of the pulpit and the rabbi. I was talking more about our perspective about other people. Hashem made the world in a way that I can't think more than one thought at a time. So I could think about the other person and look at him through the lens of that's the guy who put his siddur, took my siddur yesterday, or I could look at him through the lens of what is fantastic and phenomenal. Hashem made our minds. We only can have one thought in our head at a time. So we choose what we think about other person. Here the Rebbe is saying, we're next to Mount Sinai. What do you see the other guy? What are you thinking about? What are you focusing on? Where's your focus? Being self-aware, yeah, we're self-aware and we don't notice other people. But the Rebbe is telling us, we're listening to what the Rebbe is saying, is you have to think about the goodness of the other person. That's the bottom line. Yes, Dr. Bressman, you're unmuted. You want to say something?
Yes. I look at this a little different perspective. I look at this as this is the real evil behind socialism, communism, because here you have a group of superiors telling everybody how they have to think, allocating their resources, allocating how to treat them. It's all for the good of society, and the individuality of the person's lost. It's being driven by communism is not being driven by the motivation of loving Torah or Hashem. That's the way I look at this as being, conflict between good and bad. I'm not worried about who's using my stender too much, things like that. I gotta look at this more globally. And
right. So there are not good things, not good people out there. The question is, what do you notice? What do you notice? What do you think about? When you meet somebody, who are you meeting? Are you meeting, people? Some people, when you meet someone, they look at your eyes. Some people look at your nose. Some people look at they look down. What do you see in your mind with the other person? What are you looking at them through the mistake they made yesterday? Are you looking at them at something good, the good that's in them? Who are you relating to? Do you see their geschmackheit? Do you see their goodness? It says in the Torah was given, it says all the Jewish people at that moment, God gave us the Torah, we became responsible for each other. The word responsible, the Friedrich Rebbe says, has three translations. Arevim zevazai means they're sweet with each other. It also means they are mixed with each other. It also means they're responsible for each other. The Friedrich Rebbe said, because every Jew has within him a part of another Jew, that's why I could find geschmack in you, because we're mixed together. That's why I'm responsible for you, because there's something in you, of you and me. So I could look at the me that's in you, or could just look at something negative there, or you could look at the what's incredible. That's the mitzvah of supposed to think about what's good. Anyways, have wonderful Shabbos, Dr. Bressman. Wonderful Shabbos, Yonatan, Rabariah, David, Berabel, Zai gesund.